family, the filial child, is the one who sacrifices the most. Thereby, he or she becomes the center of the family. A patriot who sacrifices the most for the nation becomes the central person of the nation. The saint who sacrifices the most becomes the center of all saints. This is heaven's principle. So follow this way with sincerity and become individuals who can bring people into harmony in all aspects. When you do so, God's new hope will dwell within you, and the power of God's love will be added to your efforts. 19. Sacrifice makes the way of love shine. That is why the Bible says to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. We're now on page 339. It says that it is the first commandment. As the commandment goes, it is indeed the first among all the commandments in the universe. It is the most important law, because once we fulfill this law, we can create a realm in which all other laws will be followed. From this perspective, in order to fulfill God's will, God's ideal of creation, we have a path to follow. We must make a relationship with God in absolute love, then we will realize the ideal of creation. 20. The way of true love is to move toward something greater, even it means sacrificing your own interest. As you move forward toward a bigger world, you make sacrifices and accept greater hardship. With respect to the family, if your family live for the sake of society, then leaving your family is not leaving it behind but uniting it with society. For example, when your son grows up, he will find his life companion and they will join as a couple. Even though he leaves you, his parents, his loving relationship with you can deepen. And when he has children, your family will expand. Further, when your son's family moves into society, your family grows even bigger. As its links with society develops, your family will grow even greater. 21. If parents lose their children in a self-centered way, their love is false. If children love their parents in a self-centered way, that too is false love. What do I expect to see in the Unification Church? If our church represents a true religion of true love, we should not love the Unification Church for the sake of the Unification Church, just as you become a filial child by loving your parents at the sacrifice of yourself, and you become a true parent by loving your children at the sacrifice of yourself. In the Unification Church, we should love the nation and world even at the sacrifice of the Unification Church. This is the shortcut to establish the law of love. 22. For us to sacrifice our individual selves for the family is to find the path of love to the family. To sacrifice as a family in order to save the tribe is to expand the path of love to the tribe. To sacrifice as a tribe in order to save the nation is to expand the path of love to the nation. To sacrifice as a nation in order to save the world is to broaden the path of love to the world. In this way, by loving the world, we should go to reach the love of God. This is the path we have to go from now on. 23. Religions teach individuals, families, tribes, and nations to sacrifice their own interests. The nation of Israel was built upon the sacrifices of its tribes. Among the nations of the world, those that stood on religious beliefs walked the way of sacrifice throughout their history. If we are to realize the ideal of creation, we must become God's object partners of love. But unless we go through sacrifice, unless we practice this essential principle of love, we cannot become one with God, nor can we form a relationship with the ideal world of love that God is to govern. To form a relationship with the ideal world of love, there is no other way than to inherit the tradition that takes sacrifice as a cardinal principle. This is why religious place great emphasis on the path of love that requires compassion and sacrifice. The division between heaven and hell, between good and evil, is right there. Okay, we have a subtopic: the way of blood, sweat, and tears, on page 340. 24. Throughout his course of searching for human beings, God has been confronting Satan. We have to learn from God's course of devotion and follow in his steps. We now know that God has devoted himself throughout history in ways beyond description to finding his lost children with the heart of a parent, in the shoes of a servant, sowing sweat for earth, tears for humankind, and blood for heaven. We too, in order to find and attend our heavenly parent, must shed blood, sweat, and tears for him. And in order to experience the heart of our parent, we must go forward in the shoes of a servant. God suffered pain to find us, and we suffer pain to find God. The tears we shed on this course are not for ourselves alone. They are the tears we share with God. Our sweat is the sweat we share with God. Our blood and sacrifice are not for ourselves only. We shed tears and blood to participate in the sacrifices that God has been making. 25. God comes to the earth with the heart of a parent and in the shoes of a servant. When you shed tears, he also shed tears. When you shed sweat, he also sheds sweat. When you stand in the place of death, he sheds his blood for you. You have no idea how many tens of thousands of times God sacrifices himself for your sake. You have no idea how many times God himself played the role of high priest. How many painful experiences did God endure in the course of this work? From the individual level to that of the family, tribe, people, nation, and world, God sent his son to do his mission, and when he was unable to complete it, he had to do the son's mission himself. 26. We were dead, yet God went the way of death in order to revive us. Hence, we should go the same way. The way of blood, sweat, and tears with a parent's heart. This course is our destiny as descendants of the fall. When Jesus came to earth, he shed tears for humankind, blood for heaven, and sweat for the earth. When Jesus went the way of the cross, he set the substantial standard of heart for the past and present simultaneously. We human beings have or had been unfilial children, yet Jesus made the indemnity condition in heart on our behalf when, before he died, he set the standard of forgiving us all. 27. You must connect to God in heart and experience in his heart. Unless you experience his heart, you can never come before God. At the time of Jesus, what did the people of Israel do? God had shed tears, blood, and sweat for them to prepare them as the chosen people. And all his heartfelt tears, blood, and sweat still remained with them. Yet they utterly forgot all of it. 28. We are destined to go the way of one mind and one heart. How can we continue on this way without ever changing? If we cannot go this way with wisdom, we will have to go with sweat and tears. If we cannot go with the sweat and tears, we will have to go even shedding our blood. We have to offer our sweat as God's sweat and our tears as God's tears. We should shed blood for heaven, tears for humankind, and sweat for earth. We should totally demolish the basis of God's bitter sorrow, which has blocked the union of God, the earth, and human beings. This is our task. We should strive to make our daily life one in which God's work is my work. My work is the work of the earth. My work is the work of all humankind. We should reach the point where each of us is praised as a person of divine value. 29. We who know the existence of the living God will have to save humanity before Satan inflicts more destruction on the world. Even though I might end up in the lowest position and perish there, my urgent concern is how the Unification Church can establish measures to save this country and the whole world. We need to provide something of substance. We need substance that we can present to history, which we can present to all time and to the future. What is that substance? That substance is our blood, our sweat, and our tears. Our heartfelt blood, sweat, and tears should make God and all humankind weep. Each of you needs to shed blood, sweat, and tears. Then, when the people of the world listen to you, they will be so moved that they will not be able to hold back their tears. 30. What do you value most among all your possessions? No matter what it is, you should be able to give it away without hesitation or regret. But to me, your tears, sweat, and blood are what have greatest value. You should shed sweat for all things of creation. You should shed blood for heaven. You should shed tears for all humankind. This is the motto of our principal movement. You should be able to give the precious things freely. Only by doing so can you bring unity in the spirit and in the heart. 31. You should be the cement. You should be the gravel. You should be the sand, and you should be the water. Your blood, sweat, and tears are the water. Your flesh is the sand, and your bones are the gravel. With these materials, you must build your foundation of concrete. The foundation you create in this way will remain for 1,000 years. Even 10,000 years later, it will still be standing. Although people may try for 10,000 years to knock it down, they will not succeed. So now is page 342. We have a subtopic here that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow. There's a long subtopic. The way of blood, sweat, and tears. Oh, just a second. No, this is loving our enemies and the way of the principle. So I think, yes.
Yeah, we can stop there.
Okay. So is there anybody who wants to share about our reading today? So we start in 3.
Yeah. Listening to that